This vidcast is part 1 of 2 on graphic novels and manga. I know most, if not all of you, are already familiar with graphic novels, but I still thought it was important to include definitions. It's important to remember that graphic novel is a format and not a genre. The visual format is different from a text-only novel. It encompasses different genres, so it is not a genre in and of itself. I love Will Eisner's definition, a long comic book that would need a bookmark. Manga is pronounced manga. Many people read it and interpret it as manga, but the Japanese pronunciation is manga. It's the Japanese word for a comic book. Manga was originally published in Japan. It reads from right to left and is typically a serial that can go on for 30-something books. There are subcategories of manga that you may run across. Shoujo is for young teenage girls and shonen is for young teenage boys. Manhwa is Korean manga. Once you experience manga, you'll get a better understanding of why it's a different category of graphic novel. Anime is short for animation, and in particular, Japanese animation. It's available through TV, films, video games, and the internet. They're often found in public libraries especially. Many youth services have anime clubs who meet on weekends or after school to view anime and discuss it. It's a very popular trend in library programming. It represents many different types of genres. It's not a nonfiction genre by any means, but it does represent different genres in terms of, say, romance and sports. Graphic novels have been growing in popularity for the last decade or so, as you can see by the statistics on your screen. Another thing I wanted to point out to you is the increase in circulation that graphic novels can bring to a library, regardless of whether it's school or public or academic. The theory is that in bringing in readers who don't traditionally use the public library, but if they're big manga fans or anime fans and they're coming to these clubs, then it's also bringing in more people, and then they are also checking out the entire collection, not just the graphic novels or manga. Dr. Gavigan here in SLIS did a study a couple years ago in middle school libraries, 3 in South Carolina, 3 in North Carolina. She wanted to see if this trend in the public libraries was true for school libraries, and she found out it was the same. These libraries, their collections average from, say, the graphic novel collection would be 5 to 10 to 12% of the library. Regardless, the circulation of the collection in one case was 29% of the entire circulation for that middle school library. This shows the graphic novel sales from 1997 to 2011. So you can see almost a 40% increase over that period of time from 97 to 2011. They've also grown in popularity as far as award committees. I'm not talking about the Great Graphic Novels for Teens or the ALSC list, Great Graphic Novels Core list. I'm talking about other awards that are non-graphic novel specific. One reason that they've garnered attention in award categories was the work Moss, which was the first ever graphic novel to win a Pulitzer Prize. Some of you may have read that. It's often required reading for high schools or even university students. It's Art Spiegelman's book. In this book, the Nazis are the cats and the Jews are the mice. It's won tremendous attention through the years, all of it well-deserved. Other books you may have heard about: American Born Chinese, also referred to as ABC, Yummy, The Storm in the Barn, March. Storm in the Barn is about the Dust Bowl. Yummy is a true story that some of you may recall about a young boy, I think he was 12 at the time, shooting a 10-year-old girl in his neighborhood. It's an amazing story, and some of you may choose to read it as part of your requirements this semester. March is a newer one. It won the Outstanding Book for the College Bound. It also won the Eisner Award. It's based on John Lewis, who's a U.S. congressman. It's about his life working side by side with Martin Luther King. A really interesting book. The Media Awards at ALA Midwinter in recent years has been no exception. This year, one title received awards in 4 categories: nonfiction, Seibert, Coretta Scott King author, and Prince. That book is March, Book 3 by John Lewis and Andrew Aden. It's a phenomenal series. You may have parents, teachers, library directors, and other members of the community who are what I call naysayers when it comes to graphic novels. They may push back and say that they don't think it's authentic literature. They view it as sub-literature. It's important to be armed with the research. Stephen Krashen, who's an expert in literacy and very well respected nationwide, has done a considerable amount of research on comics and how these benefit English language learners and struggling readers. He also sees them as a bridge to other literature. Krashen has also written about the fact that boys seem to gravitate to graphic novels. There have been other studies out there, as you can see on your screen. I'll give you a bit of time to look over these. Dr. Gavigan here at SLIS did find that when using graphic novels with struggling adolescent readers, their reading motivation and reading efficacy improved. Smith and Wilhelm wrote Even Hockey Players Read about boys and how they respond well to the images in graphic novels. There's even an Ontario study that found males were more oriented to visual and spatial learning than females. I would argue that it's probably more accurate to say the males in that particular study responded more strongly to visual elements than the females in that particular study. I tried to avoid making general statements about an entire gender group. Stephen Miller wrote Developing and Promoting Graphic Novel Collections. Take a minute and look on the screen to see some of the things that he's found are positive reasons for using graphic novels in schools. A great quote by Art Spiegelman. Check out his website on Toon Books. How do you know what to purchase for your collection? Well, in the resources worksheet, you already learned about some great resources for graphic novels. You can use the reviews that are in the sources that you learned about in the review sources worksheet, whether it's Booklist or Hornbook, Voya, all the things that you examined all include graphic novels. He also has established lists every year, and you can refer to those. They've got the Great Graphic Novels for Teens list, and then they'll be on other award-winning lists, as I've already mentioned in previous slides. You can create teen advisory committees. I know plenty of librarians who have done this, whether they're public or school librarians. Get hands-on with the books. Go to the local bookstores and just do two things. Watch the teens and see what they're gravitating towards in the graphic novel collection section. On a weekend when you can go and see some of them just sort of plop down in a soft chair or sit on the floor and look through, follow up and look at what they're looking at. You'll get an idea for the types of things that you think would be most appropriate for your collection. Other resources, these are the also lists I mentioned already. Some of you really like the Sturgios Botsakis blog on graphic novel resources. I already mentioned the periodicals. The vendors will sometimes feature and have nice PDF documents that you can give to teachers and parents about the benefits of graphic novels. Be aware, though, that they're only going to talk about the ones that they sell or publish. Be sure you use other review sources as well. And then there's a listserv that's wonderful that you can subscribe to as indicated on the screen. Free Comic Book Day is always the first Saturday in May, and comic stores give away free copies that you can take for your classes or public libraries. You can do the drop-down bar at the URL I gave you, put in your zip code, and it'll tell you the closest comic book dealer to you. Graphic texts make the curriculum more relevant and make the content come to life for students who don't seem to grasp content from a textbook or text only.